In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition.
Margit the Fell Omen is the best, worst boss that From Software has ever made. This video will be a mechanical breakdown of this boss with multiple playthroughs of experience. First, context. This is the first boss in the game. There have been no other legacy dungeons or major areas before this if you head straight to him, so he shouldn't have too much HP or do too much damage. Even in an open world game like Elden Ring, there still should be boundaries on what's beginner and what's not. He should be memorable and set the tone for the rest of the game. Bloodborne did this really well by establishing two first bosses, Cleric Beast and Father Gascoigne. The Cleric Beast to prepare you for the beast bosses in the game, and Gascoigne to prepare you for the hunter fights in the game. Margit should do the same thing, and he does that really well. Long delayed strikes, emphasis on positioning, and forced directional rolling are all things that future bosses require you to use. Here I'm going to dive into the main part of the analysis, which is the mechanics of the fight. Margit has many slow and quick attacks, forcing you to adapt to these timings. He has clear openings after some of them. He has cool light projection weapons that make him mechanically interesting. He has many roll catches and combos where he can mix up what he does. If you stay in front of him, you have to face his combos, some of which you can't roll every single individual hit, so positioning is the best solution. The key strategy is to position behind his back, which will usually cancel his combos, allowing for a free opening. The problem is, if you try to attack his back, he has a tail swing where he will guaranteed back away, only allowing for one hit at a time. The problem is, you have to roll his tail swipe, and sometimes you won't be able to get an opening off. So your best bet is to jump over the tail swing, so you get the biggest opening to hit him while getting in some bonus damage. This already makes him a top 10 most mechanically difficult boss in-game, and is genius. A constant battle of positioning and prediction. Jumping and already enforcing perfect rolling with attacks like this double swing to make him super fun to fight. He has a specific timing to his moves, and some of his attacks don't have clear telegraphs, so you'll always have to be ready, making this half reaction and half memory, which always keeps me excited and ready for what he's gonna do next. Similar to Lothric and Lorien, which is already one of my favorite bosses in the series. He even has variations of some moves, so you'll always have to be prepared for anything this guy throws at you. And I haven't even started discussing Phase 2. Oh yeah. Did I mention this guy is a Phase 2?
Thou art of passing star. Warrior blood must run in thy veins. Tarnished. Put these foolish ambitions to rest.
Margit Phase 2 has some new moves and combos which elevate his fight to even greater heights. He can now summon this giant hammer and doesn't give you any chance to breathe in the good way. Instead of healing at neutral after backing off, you heal after an attack or else you will be punished, which prepares you well for the bosses later in game. Moves with specific directional rolling that are really tight are forced in this phase, and he just doesn't stop. A great thing I haven't mentioned about this guy is that he has moves that will make him back away, which at first can come off annoying, but when he runs away, this is a perfect opportunity to heal. This gives you some breathing room if you are struggling with this fight. Margit is just amazing. He makes you utilize every trick that these games have to offer. Positioning, directional rolling, jumping, healing after attacks rather than neutral, etc. This guy is just about it. Until you remember the context. This is the first boss in the game. These standards are absolutely fucking unreasonable for new players, and even for someone like me who has thousands of hours on the Soul series, this is still absolutely insane and harder than anything in DS3 mechanically by miles. There are multiple issues with Margit that are apparent throughout the entire game, such as the delayed attacks that feel unnatural and frustrating to deal with. I don't have a problem with them, but when he has delays that are looking like this... Yeah, With so many of these delayed attacks, the learning process can turn out more frustrating than actually fun. You're supposed to be aggressive in between these delays so it keeps the flow of the fight feeling natural, but in Elden Ring there's no incentive to be aggressive. This could have been solved with an in-game system like how Bloodborne rallying worked or how posture worked in Sekiro, but in this game there is none, so the game never incentivizes you to be aggressive to attack in between delays, so it's likely that you'll find these moves oddly timed when you're intended to hit once or twice, but instead they just come off frustrating. Of course, once you master these timings with said weapon class, then it feels fair, but during the learning process, it can be very annoying. The game also never teaching you the importance of the jump button or what can be jumped, which is vital for some fights like God for your countering the tail swing for this boss, so you can actually get clear counters and fair openings once you avoid an attack. On top of this, jumping above Margit's tail attack is so tight and the window to avoid it is so small that most people will probably just dismiss it as not possible unless watching a YouTube video about a guy doing it first. And mastering this part of the fight is honestly more frustrating than it feels fair. This guy is just way too hard for a new player and almost expects you to utilize these systems when the entire game does a poor job at teaching you this. Did I mention sometimes that this guy has no end lag? Sometimes Margit has end lag after some of his attacks. Notice I said some and not all, because sometimes you will roll perfectly and you still won't get a clear opening for him to run away, which just feels unfair. Sometimes when you perfectly avoid a combo, he will come in with an unavoidable, unreactable combo extender for no reason that I can discern that I guess he can just pull out at random times. I could be wrong on this and there's some trigger for this that I haven't been able to find it after fighting this guy on multiple different builds for hours on each. You can make the argument to just roll after said combos and just expect it comes, but the problem is, if you mistake this for something else, then you've just wasted your stamina and probably missed an opening, which isn't good for you. The only way I've found to avoid this move consistently is to just get behind his back, which cancels his combos. The problem is, this guy will just step back, but in the shitty boss room where his back will be toward the cliff and you obviously can't fall off the cliff or else you'll die, so your best bet is to just fight him, and risk taking the bullshit, which I don't like, or be forced to disengage and wait for him to come to you, which is boring, and I also don't like it. He does this pretty often in my experience, which prolongs the fight, so I usually just wait for him to step back after a combo, and then I just wait. Did I mention that this guy's damage values are through the roof? With the limited amount of heals you get by this point in the game, which is usually 3, 4 if you allocate the Estus, and 5 if you pick up the golden seed as a starting gift, that means you can probably make 5 mistakes before you're fucked. In Phase 1, this is tolerable and fair, except for the fact that in Phase 2, he has so many combos that attack so fast that if you mess up one roll, your life is ended. On top of that, most of his moves in Phase 2 deal half of your HP or more, which leaves barely any room for error, which makes the learning process feel even more frustrating. I don't know if I'm playing wrong, but the second I got up, he immediately hit me at the end of my animation, so there's nothing I could do unless you're supposed to wait your end leg out or get out in a specific direction. But I haven't been able to find out what I'm supposed to do here because it happens so rarely. I'll leave it to unfortunate RNG, but this exists. This boss is just too hard. He holds absurdly high standards that the most mechanically advanced bosses in the series up to this point force you to use, but instead is the first boss. There's little to no margin for error. His openings and punish windows are obscure and aren't well communicated. So why is Margit still B tier if he does so much damage? If you have so little room for error, it's frustrating. If he has bullshit combo extenders, if the main way to beat him is to get behind his back but he disables this, why is he still a good boss? Because Elden Ring is an open world game. Dark Souls and the other games in this series usually had you follow a starting area that you always had to go through, but not in Elden Ring. You can go anywhere you want, whenever you want, however you want. You aren't forced to fight this guy like you are Udex Gundyr. Margit doesn't stop progression because you can always head somewhere else and get stronger to come back. Almost all the other bosses in the series force you to fight him, which halts progression. You can avoid Margit and avoid Stormveil entirely to get to Leonia to progress the game. This is a terribly communicated way to progress the game, and it makes the game even harder, but that's a separate topic. The point is that Elden Ring doesn't force you to fight him. You can always go away to get stronger. This gives some leverage to become fair, on top of the game allowing you to use spirit summons, and now NPC summons are free, without having to consume items like humanities or embers, which alleviates the difficulty. For solo melee players are the most enjoyable way to play the game in my experience. This is pretty frustrating to learn if you're not the proper level. But finding the proper level with your actual weapon level feels more like tedious research to me than actual fun gameplay. I don't want to have to see, okay, what level do I have to be? What do I have to upgrade my weapon? Like, it's just more fun if I just go in straight up. Also, the boss theme is kind of mid. I'm not saying you should go Ludwig the Holy Blade on a first boss, but compared to his other competitors, it's kinda underwhelming considering this guy is more overwhelming than all of them. Overall, this is a fun fight for experienced players, while being one of the most mechanically difficult bosses in the game with cool aesthetics and top-tier voice acting. With a great flow to his fight, bogged down by the fact that this enjoyable fight is fucked over if all he wants to do is step back to the cliff or just step away after an attack with a random bullshit factor in my experience. I have a lot of fun coming back to him every new playthrough, but the first time, yeah, this dude booty blasted me for 5 hours. Now, he isn't too bad because I mechanically mastered him, but sometimes on new playthroughs, I just feel a little soured because these issues happen to me too often. A B tier that could have been S. Well, actually, Margit exists, who's actually S, which literally answers all of my problems with this fight and expands upon the boss mechanically to make him much better. Anyways, if you like this video, you can like and subscribe. If you want to see more content like this, you can also join the Discord if you want to talk with me and a bunch of other people about Souls. I could do more boss analyzations like this in the future if it's requested. Anyways, thanks for watching and see ya.